Hello. First of all, welcome Katie, welcome Nick. They've just jumped on into our chat. Hi guys. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Jude. I'm chapter director at Startup Ground Glasgow. Thank you for joining us this evening. It's nice and sunny, so you might have wanted to sit out in the garden instead. I know if I had a garden, that's where I'd be, but I don't. So we're doing it from inside. Hope you're all well. Thank you for joining us. We've got a great event lined up with Rachel. If you weren't at our event way back in August last year with Rachel, then you're in for a treat. Rachel's great. We're going to be talking about the current situation with society and business, talking about resilience, positive opportunities that COVID might bring, and also the new normal that we find ourselves living in. I don't know about you guys, but for me, I'm on day 38 of self-isolation and lockdown. That's right. I've not left my house in 38 days, which is wild. Wild. So, yeah, that's me. If you have any questions, we have our Slido. I think the link is going to be popped into the chat. If you want, we're going to do quite an extensive Q&A at the end. The Slido will be open all throughout the event, so get your questions in. And if you want to ask your question live to Rachel, just make sure to add your name so that we can find you and get you to ask those questions to her. And I think that's myself. Nick, I'll hand back to you.
Yep, so just to give myself a bit of an introduction, I'm Nick Murray. I'm the co-chapter, the co-director of Startup Ground Edinburgh usually, and Jude and I from Startup Glasgow have teamed up for this awesome joint event where we're going to be looking at creativity, compassion, and community during these testing times with the wonderful Rachel Brown. So we're going to be covering topics such as resilience and what the new normal looks like, and it's basically just going to be tonight. We want to get you guys involved as much as possible. We've got screen, and that will come into the chat later, I'm sure, when we're talking about how this new dynamic has kind of diluted our business personas and shown the real people behind these things. So I want to introduce some other members of the team. We've got Johnny here as well. Johnny, say hello. Johnny's muted.
On you go. Oh,
there we go. Hello, everybody. Great to join you. Great to see you all.
So Johnny's going to be working on the Slido tonight. So if you've got a question for Rachel or a point of discussion that you want to raise, then drop it there. The link is in the chat. The link is also on our Twitter. And drop something in there. You can stay anonymous if you want. If you want to ask your question live to Rachel later on, then leave your name and we'll drop you a direct message later on and see if you're up for it. We've also got Emma, who's going to be working on social media. Do you want to say hi, Emma?
Hello everyone, some fantastic backgrounds. Yeah, I'll be on the Twitter this evening. We're actually going to be doing a competition for some of the best tweets. So things like what your setup is at the moment or your general quarantine setup. So I'll be looking through those and I'll post some links for you guys to tag. And then the winner will be getting a free ticket to one of our upcoming events, which is very excited. And with the Slido, you can ask stuff at any point throughout the evening in the chat as well. So yeah, looking forward to it.
Thanks, Emma. So Johnny, why don't you start rocking and rolling with a little bit of information about why we're here with Startup Ground and what's happening with us this month?
Fantastic. There we go. We're back on mute again. Yeah, absolutely. So if you bear with me a moment, I'm going to share across my screen, tell you a little bit about us at Startup Ground. Actually, Nick or Jude, would you be so kind as to enable that? So yeah, we are Startup Ground. I see many returning faces and it's fantastic. So you've got past speakers from past events. It's really wonderful. At Startup Ground, we are a global organization. We've got over 600 chapters in over 400 cities worldwide and over 120 different countries. And our whole mission is to educate, inspire, and support entrepreneurs around the globe. So if we jump across, we have some Bear with me one moment. Let's try that. There we go. So, fantastic. So yeah, thank you all for joining us. At Startup Grind, we believe in 3 things above all else. We believe in giving before you take, in helping others before you help yourself, and making friends, not contacts. It's very easy, in particularly in this industry, to go into survival mode and say, you know, I need, give, take. More often not in business. If you start by giving, by asking yourself how you can support others in this network, in this community, what goes around does tend to come around. It won't come around directly, some will be indirectly, but the opportunities you get out of it from forming proper friendships will always outweigh what comes with that. So yeah, thank you so much for being part of the community, for supporting or for joining what we're doing in this time. I believe that in times of separation, community becomes more and more important. So it's amazing to see you all here with us tonight. This particular month, I'd like to, we are sponsored globally by Amazon AWS. So yeah, this April, Startup Grind and AWS are partnering for AWS Mentorship Month. Now, mentors like Rachel, who we're fortunate to have with us tonight, provide helpful support, advice, and feedback throughout your startup journey, throughout the highs and the lows. So as a Startup Grind community member, you're invited to our exclusive Startup Grind and AWS mentorship program as part of Mentorship Month, which gives you the opportunity to partner with an AWS leader or community hero in your field of expertise throughout the tracks of product, marketing, sales, fundraising, and strategy, whatever you need support with. If you're a startup and you're keen to get involved, we'll drop a link, you can apply, and we'll be selecting some winners who will, the overall winner will also receive thousands of pounds in AWS credits. So massive thank you to us for supporting what we do, and we're going to play this quick short video. Hopefully it's going to work. And hopefully it's going to work with us. Jude or Nick, could you give us a shout if it's not playing volume? Are we good, Jude? We are not good. That's always, technical issues are always fun. We practiced this one before, which is always fun. We did practice this and it did work, but let's see if it's going to work this time. Sorry about this, guys. There we go. Okay. We good now?
There's a reason why for the last 13 years, startups overwhelmingly prefer to build on top of AWS. We have the largest number of services, making it easy for you to take on some of the biggest challenges with the smallest teams. We also have partnerships with the top VCs, accelerators, and incubators around the world, making it easier to secure your next round of funding.
I'm a solution architect with the AWS HeadStart program. What we do is we work with startups in the education sector, and we help them build their services on AWS.
So We Power Tech is AWS's diversity and inclusion outreach program. The program is really twofold. One is to increase the number of underrepresented technologists within the industry, and the second is to provide a platform for them to be seen and heard.
If you're wondering how the AWS evangelism team might be able to help your startup, there are many ways. We're technically credible across our entire catalog of products, so we can help you figure out which services might be able to meaningfully impact your business. We also want to help tell your story. So if you're building something cool, we want to know about it and help spread that message to the world. So you might end up on stage at an event like AWS Summit. If you're a startup, you should also definitely check out the AWS Lofts. These are event spaces that are free to anyone with an AWS account. And you can treat them like co-working spaces, but the awesome thing about them is that we also have people like technical evangelists like myself, solutions architects that come and give hands-on technical workshops and sessions to help you learn how to more effectively utilize the AWS products and platforms that you're already building on top of.
We are a dedicated team of people that love startups, that we just want to come and help you with whatever we can, whether it be technical or business focused. We are here to help guide you and make sure that you do have a say in what's going on. We do get your feedback. We do bring that feedback to the service teams. That is what we're here for.
Fantastic.
Lovely stuff.
Okay,
So
so I'll pass it back to Nick.
I want to encourage everyone to pop their Zoom onto speaker. speaker talk.
Review.
There we go. I'm trying to share my screen now to talk about our local partners, starting with CMS. Now, is David Nisbet in the chat? Can we unmute
No,
David from
David
CMS?
Dennis is who we're looking for. I don't know if he's here, but I know Nick Brady is here.
Do you want to talk about this, Nick? Can we unmute Nick?
I don't know if Nick's there.
That's right, we can talk about CMS. So essentially CMS are the go-to people for legal and tax, and they are currently our Startup Grind global sponsor. They help us out, and back when we could all meet in person, they hooked us up with amazing venues and drinks and food and basically facilitated the whole thing. And they have an amazing program called the Equip program, which is for startups looking for advice on their IP and looking to grow. Right now, CMS are also doing an amazing office hours offer for our followers, and we'll be tweeting out opportunities for people to jump in and get free office hours, drop-in advice on legal and stuff for their startups surrounding tech and people. And that's going to be happening next Tuesday on the 28th, just before our event about the care services. So that's CMS. We've also got our local sponsors, which are Custom Flavor Video. We've got Alan Chi in the chat right now, and Alan runs Custom Flavor Videos. They do amazing video content for small businesses that are growing. Now more than ever, it's a great time to get your service offering right with video content, and Alan and Custom Flavor do amazing work around that. And I want to give a shout out as well to our marketing partner, Future Simple. We've got an amazing platform for entrepreneurs and small businesses that want to get their marketing right from the start. I use that tool myself. I've followed this company's growth through the RBS Accelerator, and I think they're amazing. So check the chat and check the Twitter for links to those organizations. So Jude, I think we wanted to maybe do the hands up bits of this, where we've got quite a few people in the chat, and we wanted to open it up to people that maybe had an offering, or they had something to say, or they had an ask for the Startup Grind community. Mm-hmm. So if you guys are familiar with the hands up function of Zoom, you go to manage participants, and down the bottom is a little bit where you can put your hands up. So Jude, if you can
kick us off, if that's okay. Yeah, I will also kick us off. So guys, one of the things that COVID has made me realize is that I should really be shopping more locally than I already am. Do think I do a pretty good job of it, but always room to improve. So I want to know, have you got any friends or maybe yourself that have great local businesses that I can support? Send them over my way. I'd love to find out about them, shop with them, support them. So yeah, if you know anyone, let me know. Do we have any?
I can follow that up because I'm working with a great initiative called the Edinburgh Lockdown Economy, which is a website platform where we've basically listed all of the local businesses here in Edinburgh that are doing COVID services and deliveries and so on, and that's free to do. We're actually looking for a digital marketer at the moment now who might be on furlough that's looking for a project. And the guys that have built it, Tom, he has white labeled the software, so anyone, maybe someone in Glasgow, can start up their own lockdown economy and start creating all the great services and local independent businesses around their area that want to get promoted.
That's great. And Anna's actually popped that link in the chat. And Anna, I hope I've said your name right. Apologies if I haven't. Jimmy, I think you have your hand up. Hi, Jimmy. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you very much. First of all, I've already typed in your message near the chat. Currently, I'm the District Governor for the West of Scotland. So if there's anyone looking to assist some of the local Rotary clubs, because we are doing a lot of delivery and phone calls and checking up on people. So even if you want to send me just your email and your postcode, then what I'll do is I'll actually get the local Rotary to contact you, so that if you're looking to deliver stuff, pick stuff up, or even phone and chat, to those that are locked in, whether they be pensioners, single parents, ethnic minorities or whatever, that would be great. And can I apologise? I have another Zoom meeting starting at 8, so I'll probably need to disappear about 7:50.
That's okay, Jimmy. We'll let you off. We'll let you off. Anyone else got any
Well, I know that Anais from FutureX has got a great offer for solo entrepreneurs and freelancers. So she's just remembered, so I'm gonna unmute her. Hi, Anais, how you doing?
Hi everyone, well, thank you very much. Yes, we do. We've got FutureX Plus, which is our online community of purpose-led entrepreneurs. And at the moment, we've opened up the online community to solo entrepreneurs and freelancers. Because obviously, power of community, it's really something we need to harness and really focus on at the moment. So we've got this community open. It's free for solo entrepreneurs and freelancers. And we also have a full subscription for everyone else. And that's on a discounted rate at the moment. So I can pop the link in the chat if you want to learn a bit more, but just come find me if you've got any question, find me in the chat.
That's amazing. And sorry for getting your name wrong.
Ah, no, it's all good, don't worry. It doesn't travel well outside of France. No problem at all. Sounds lovely everywhere.
Well, so if anyone else wants to speak up, now's your chance, or forever hold your peace. Okay, let's crack on. So I'm going to put myself back to speaker chat, and we're going to welcome Rachel.
Hello.
Hi, Rachel. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I'm good. Thank you for having me. This is good.
You're very welcome. As you know, I'm a big Rachel Brown fan, so it was always a pleasure to host you. I don't know if I'll do it justice, so I'm going to hand your intro over to yourself to introduce yourself to these lovely people who may not be familiar with who you are.
Okay. So I'm Rachel Brown. I would probably describe myself, well, I'm incredibly ambitious for the communities that I work with and I have the privilege to serve. So I would, in that respect, describe myself as a leader within the creative and social space. I have a background that is quite checkered, and it makes me inherently unemployable. And I'm particularly proud of that fact. I have probably done every conceivable job there is to do, and I've probably been asked to leave every higher education establishment I ever walked into. And saying that though, Strathclyde University kept me longer than most, but it just really wasn't for me. One of the things that I did that has shaped me throughout my whole career is that I, from a very early age, started working in the community and started working with and for people, and that's always had a very big impact on me. And it's had a big impact on me as I've gone through my life, because as the older I've become, the more I've remembered those influences. So I consider myself somebody who works very hard for others. I consider myself somebody who is kind and who wants to be part of a new society. I've always wanted that. I'm going to talk a bit about the opportunities for the pandemic tonight. I'm quite excited. I've got over my grief, which I'll talk a bit about, but I'm excited for the future. I am incredibly fortunate, and I'm very aware of that even now, more so now rather. I have the opportunity to do jobs and be part of an ecosystem that I love. And I have that choice, and I'm very aware that that choice is something I have worked hard for, but equally the starting point was I had the choice. So I'm not going to talk about all the mad things I've done. Yeah, I was a DJ. Yes, I'm an opera singer. Yes, I used to be an athlete. Yeah, I used to run several businesses, all of that kind of stuff. My favourite ones though are being a waitress. If you ever get a chance to be a waitress, I would recommend that. Tells you everything you need to know about the human condition. Mm-hmm. And it gives you a certain respect for people who give you bad service, and two, how people should appreciate others who work for you and provide for you. So that's me.
Nice one. So yeah, we should mention this is a little bit different from the normal Startup Grind fireside chat format. Normally we dig deep into a person's career and how they got to where they are, but we felt with everything that's going on, we had to call an audible and get in one of the most passionate, creative and supportive people from our community here in Scotland to talk about creativity, compassion and community. So if these are themes which are resonating with you, then drop some talking points and notes in the Slido. And with that said, Rachel, as a leader, how have you yourself been dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic?
Well, it's an interesting question, and it's a question that I think I've been asked more in the last 5 weeks than any other question. And I think I just want to kind of go back a bit, round about January time, because remember we're just dealing with Brexit, right? We were just dealing with all the shebang that was going on with Brexit, like only 5 minutes ago. And I worked predominantly in the creative and social space. So Brexit had a really big impact on people, and people were losing contracts and losing work and actually slowly starting to come back. And then it was like the second week in January, we had a really big event booked for the end of March, which was going to be a big speaker that we had brought over, somebody who was a very prominent designer in the creative space. And happily for her, she is able to spend 3 months of her year in Thailand and then works 9 months of the year back in the UK. And it was the middle of January where she was told she wasn't allowed to come back. And we knew really kind of at that point that things were going to start looking really challenging. We were still dealing with Brexit coming into the pandemic. And I would say to my colleagues and and people on my team, we're going to have to think a wee bit differently here. We're going to have to get a bit battle ready. This feels different, and it feels different because things are falling away faster. We live and work in a global community, and things are falling away much faster than they normally would or could or should. And it started to be a bit of a worry. And it was probably around about mid-February that I realised that actually we were going to have to change most things in our business. And it was at that point, I remembered, so the organisation I lead at the moment, I joined the organisation 3 years ago now. Hard to believe. It feels like the longest period of my life and also the shortest period of my life at the same time. And to be honest, it's been crap. It's been really, really hard. It's been so tough. But on the 24th of January 2018, in the organisation that I was with, I got the e-bomb through to say that we'd lost all of our funding. So I'd gone from a fully stocked organisation, like 16 staff, budget £500,000 or thereabouts, just over, to nothing. And it was at the same time of year. And just at that point, my dad had also died. This gets happier, right? This does get happier. So I was in a job that I'd only just kind of inherited as the chief exec, and there was a lot of work needed to be done in the role that I had. And I knew that. I went into the organisation knowing fine I was going to have to do change. But I went from hero to zero, not the other way around. Everybody talks about going it the other way around. I came in as the new chief exec and the whole thing went like that. And my dad died. And I had never experienced grief like it before. I was very close to my dad. He was very, I used to roadie for his folk band back in the day. And I grew up in the pubs and clubs in Edinburgh, roadieing for my dad's folk band, which is actually a lot more rock and roll than it sounds. Back in the 90s. And it was a really, really tough time. And actually, mid-February this year, 2020, all of those emotions came flooding back to me because we knew that we were going to be in a period of loss. And I quickly dealt with, I felt this before. I felt this grief before. Now, I work with within an ecosystem, and I work within a group and organisations, and I do feel very strongly that the people, even though in separate organisations I work alongside, I feel very strongly that they're teammates and that they're colleagues and that we're all in this together. And I thought, if I'm going to be any use to anybody, I'm going to have to get my own shit together really quite quickly. So I did the thing that beginning of March that a lot of people did. I don't know if anybody in this room did it. I shut the door, drank lots of bottles of, boxes. It was a box of wine. Literally drank a box of wine, cried a lot, and thought, what am I going to do? Are we going to lose everything? Everybody's going to shit. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? What am I going to do? And then I kind of came out the other side and went, okay, I've cried now. What am I good at? What am I good at bringing to the party? And I think that's a really important thing. We don't often ask ourselves that. And in a time of crisis, you should really dig deep into what are you good at? And don't be afraid to come up and say, I can do that. Don't know if anybody's into Star Trek at all. Me and my wee guy love Star Trek. I'm a bit of a Star Trek geek, so I watch all the Star Treks. But my wee guy and I have just been watching the movies, and there's a bit in the movie where the young guy, where Chekhov is 17 in the movie, the young guy, and he suddenly goes, I can do that, I know how to do that. And it's this really complex problem. They're flying through the sky, they're going to fall off a platform. It's very exciting. But he's like, I can do that. And that just actually kind of twisted something in me. I thought, this is the time for us all to stand and go, oh, that's the bit I can do. I can help you with that bit. I know how to do that. I'm not often very good at that. So I kind of got together with a couple of colleagues, said, right, what are we good at? What am I good at? What do we need? And kind of pulled a bit of a plan together. And I think I've been doing a range of things over the last 5 or 6 weeks. I've been managing my own emotions because it's hard. Like, it's really tough, and it's really tough feeling that you don't know what the meaning is. Like, I can handle challenge, I can handle chaos. I'm not particularly driven by money, so I'm not really that worried about the money we're losing or have lost. I can see ways around generating it. I've had it once, I lost it once, I've had it once, I've lost it once. It's a bit like men. I'm a bit like, yeah, baby, whatever. Can always get myself a bit more money. So that kind of doesn't bother me. I'm not hugely driven by success either. Like, I like to be good at things. I'd absolutely like to be good at things. I don't do anything half-arsed. I do my homework, and I like to be sitting going, I know how to do that. I'm good at this. But I'm not really driven by success. I'm particularly proud that I've never won an award. And I just kind of make that as the statement that it is. I've never been nominated either, let's be fair, but like, I've never won anything. But I am driven by meaning, and I'm driven, when meaning is taken away from you, it's very difficult to see your way through. And I think that's what lots of people are experiencing at the moment. If we knew the plan by Christmas, we knew what we were going to do, but the meaning of it has been taken away. So how do we get through that? So like everybody, I really struggle with that, and I have good days and bad days, but I acknowledge that what I'm good at. I acknowledge the fight that needs to happen. I absolutely don't agree with any of the language that we're talking about just now, and I get really fierce about that. We're not in lockdown. What is that? This is not like a zombie movie. This is not what this is. We're not in lockdown. You know, we're in a pandemic. That's a serious situation, but this is not a movie. Right, we need to get a grip of this. This is our own reality in our own society, and we can shape this, and we can be part of this. And I don't know, like anybody else, a Thursday night's become a big deal in our house. We're out clapping in the street. You know, my husband and I just can't even get past the front door without bawling our eyes out. Kids are like, oh my God, you're so embarrassing that you're crying for the NHS, my God. But it's like such a community moment for us, where we can see our neighbours and we're waving to each other and we're part of something. And we're respecting something that actually is an institution that at its core has all the right values that we want. We love the idea of it. It gives us meaning in a time when meaning has been taken away from us. So I think in answer to your question, I'm coping in 2 different ways, and I'm handling it in 2 different ways. I sacrifice, I mean, I'll be honest in this arena, like personal sacrifice and professional sacrifice, I've put skin in the game. I'll talk a bit about what we've done with the Creative Entrepreneurs Club and Can Do Collective, but it's been at a risk. Like, I might not survive this in terms of the organisation that I lead, and I'm willing to take that risk. So I think at times when it's tough, leaders should put skin in the game and stand up to be counted. And I always talk about integrity and values and authenticity and all that guff. But actually, when we're in a situation where it really matters to support people, to engage with people, to help people, to be part of a team, then if you are in a leadership position, you should step up and be counted. And if I get one more email telling me how to manage the COVID crisis, and here's a link to a website, I am going to lose my shit all kinds of ways. See the people that are around me that are delivering other services, that are just faffing about and emailing me links to stuff to tell me how to sort it out myself, they can chuff off, and I'm coming for them. Make no mistake. So I think there's something about being able to recognise what's needed in the environment. This is a time to be more human than we've ever been before. And this is a time to create a society that we can all be proud of. And in a crisis, what we need is we need creative thinkers, we need social impact makers, we need businesses that make money, we need values that are upheld, and we need people really to step up and say, right, I can do this bit, can you do that bit, and you do that bit, and together we'll go along. One of the things I was talking about in a call the other week, like I've been watching a lot of movies like a lot of people have. I don't know, I've actually got no time. I've got literally no time. I hide in the bathroom still for 5 minutes peace. I've got a husband, 2 cats and 2 children, and all of you lot. I'm like, geez, peace. So I still hide in the bathroom and drink my cup of tea in the morning where nobody can find me. And I've been watching a lot of movies, and I was watching in like Independence Day and Armageddon. I love all that stuff, right? But I was watching Independence Day, and you know the bit where there is a convoy and they're all driving towards the airbase, and I kind of think this is what it's like. We're all in our own vehicles, right? Some of us have got big vehicles that have got like hundreds of people in it. Some of us have got wee caravans. Some of us have got wee nimble. I'm totally in one of these. I quite fancy myself in one of these wee army vehicles with no roof, just the roll barrier. I'm totally on that. Yeah. I'm like riding like that, like a skateboard.
I can picture it.
Holding on. And like we're all moving forward, and together we can all go fast. Separately we can all go fast. We can all go our own directions. We can all do a whole many things. But see if we all travel together and we create that wave, that crest. That's something that's really exciting. So those kind of images are getting through for me. The other thing that I'm doing is I'm taking a lot of comfort in watching movies that I've seen before, or reading books that I've read before, or listening to music that's really familiar to me, because I can't handle anything else new. I can handle, like the world around me is new, all the businesses are new, all the stuff that's falling apart is new. I can handle all of that. I tell you, give me Jean-Luc Picard and a glass of wine, and I am sitting there loving it. And I'm literally quoting it all as we go through the episode. You know, bit of karaoke to the sound of music, cannot go wrong. And so it's this kind of familiar stuff that's like my personal care. That's me putting my oxygen mask on first. So I've got my personal care going on with that. And then all the other stuff, you're just getting battle ready for.
That's amazing. Before we jump to Jude's question, I love that picture that you paint of like a Mad Max dystopian future of us all kind of on this road to glory. Yeah, if some of these things are resonating with you guys, make sure you show the chat is already blown up to the side. If some of this stuff is resonating with you, grab a screen grab and give us a crazy Rachel Brown quote on Twitter, because we need to get this stuff out to a wider audience.
Amazing. Rachel, I also did the same. I very much spent the start of March on the sofa crying and drinking wine, but then like you, I put on my oxygen mask and here we are. And now I'm just drinking wine and not crying. So whatever gets you through lockdown, guys. But we're not calling it lockdown anymore, sorry.
No, it's
whatever
not
gets
lockdown.
you, whatever gets you through the pandemic.
Yeah, I think we just need to get used to it. We're now living with a virus, because let's be clear, this is not, there's no new normal. We're not going back.
We're not going back.
Can't wait to get back. We're not going back. There's no back. We're in a situation now. We have to get used to living with a virus. And that is going to be challenging. But the new reality that we're in is that we're going to have to live differently. We're going to be we are forced to live differently. Who knew at the beginning of 2020, we were not going to be able to leave our properties. And I think that you just get your head around that. That's such an extraordinary situation.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we have to get used to what this is going to look like. It'll be peaks and troughs. We'll be in this situation, but what a huge opportunity. I mean, we've been more connected than we've ever been, but we've been more isolated than we've ever been. So what do we do about that? How do we create the communities we want to create? And how do we, we're all just custodians of something, aren't we? So how do we create the future and the planet that we want to be proud of? And we're only here once. Like, I don't know about everybody here, but I am hell-bent on making a legacy. God knows what that legacy will be, but I want a legacy. Like my mum, and this is kind of funny, my mum's a genealogist, so she's loving this. Like she's in genealogy heaven right now with all of her uninterrupted time tracing family trees, telling me about every other pandemic that's going on in the world, because that's a cheeky conversation. You know, in the 17th century, Rachel, I'm like, and we survived this, and guess how many entrepreneurs were created? And I'm like, this is all nuggets, Mum, but not on the Zoom chat. But you know, it's fascinating. I tell you, it's a really fascinating exercise, because you get to, how brilliant would it be if our ancestors looked back and saw through our family history the stories that we left, the stories that we told. I mean, how excited you get, but how excited you be if you find out in your own past that there was a pirate, or that somebody made a difference. So my great granny was a spinster. She was a hat maker, and she lived in Glasgow. Now, I'm not from Glasgow originally. She lived in Glasgow in White Inch, and she had a hat shop, and her name was Bessie May. And I named my first daughter Bessie May Dallas Brown. So, I mean, she's clearly going to grow up to be an accountant. But at the back in the day, you know, my great granny owned her own business as a hat maker, and she made like suffragette hats and, you know, like cool stuff. And I was really excited by that history. And imagine if what our part of our legacy is in this crazy time that we're in, that our ancestors look back and they go, oh my God, did you know that my great grandfather Nick Murray like did that Mad Max stuff? That was mental. Like, he took to the streets. Duke Street didn't know what was going on. Do you know? Imagine if we had those stories. And I think we should just kind of hold on to a bit of that.
I love that. I think my question follows on quite nicely to that, is that what, you know, with both Creative Entrepreneurs Club and Can Do, what business decisions have you made around, you know, the pandemic, about where you want the business to go? But could you maybe also share how you've made those decisions? Because I can imagine there's been a lot of tough ones to make. Yeah. I mean, there are tough ones to make, and I think, like anybody, you should never make tough decisions lightly. I remember when the Twin Towers happened in New York, and Mayor Giuliani wrote a book about, you know, making decisions, being a leader. And I was in an event, and this brilliant person stood up, and we had this conversation about making decisions fast and how appalling it was that the decisions were made fast. You know, like, if you're, and we're in a bit of that just now, there's a bit of posturing going on, you know, if you're like, oh, we're in the moment, let's make a fast decision, let's be like quite macho about the whole thing. They're not good decisions. Good decisions are considered, and they're human, and they're well thought through. And the difficult ones, you know, if you're going to be in a situation, like my job title is chief exec, so whatever happens in the scenario in the organization I lead, the buck stops with me. You know, I've got the badge, I've got to make those decisions and follow them through. So if I'm affecting anybody's life, I've got to make sure I've got that decision correct and right, and the communication proper. It's really it's not easy, and you should always feel a bit queasy. Every time I have to make a difficult decision, I always feel queasy. And the minute I've said to myself, the minute I don't feel queasy about that decision, is the time for me to go and do something else. Because you have to get comfortable being uncomfortable if you're in a leadership position. Something that you've heard me say many times before, Jude. And I think that's really important. It's more so ever, but you have to understand that's what it is. So my own anxiety has to be managed, because I can't let my own anxiety get in the way of decision making on behalf of other people. But I should always feel sick if I'm having to make a decision that I know is going to have a consequence. If I don't feel nervous about it, then I think I'm not I've not thought it through well enough. So the decisions I've had to make, I mean, I knew really end of February, beginning of March, that the model that we'd created through Creative Entrepreneurs Club was going to have to change, and I was going to have to take a big risk. The model we'd created was a kind of third. So we had a third of grant money that came in, and I would just do that in a normal way. We had a third of trading money where people paid for our services, and we had a third of investor money where people, high net worths, gave us money because they believed in the vision.
2 amounts of that fell off a cliff literally overnight. So the trading income and the investor income just stopped, as it had to. People weren't able to part with that cash, which meant that the only people that could really step in were the public purse, like many of us are experiencing across different organisations. Now, there's 2 ways of looking at that. I could have panicked and went, holy schmoly, we're doomed because 2/3 of my income's just fallen off a cliff, and it wasn't insignificant income. Or I could have went, well, do you know what do we need? This is going to be a really challenging time, and we're a pretty slick outfit as an organisation. Actually, we'd worked really hard. We're big on customer service. I worked really hard giving people what they needed. So how could we, if I was advising myself, how could we really turn that on its head? And just about that time, I was really grappling with what we were going to do. Just about that time, Andrew Dobie from Made Brave, who I know well, good pal, had started up the creative industry support group, COVID-19 creative industry support group on LinkedIn, and within like 48 hours, about 1,800 people had signed up. And him and I started chatting about what we're going to do. So this was on the Sunday, Monday, like the 8th, 9th of March. And I said to him, do you know what, sod this for a laugh, mate. Why don't we let's just change everything about the Creative Entrepreneurs Club and make it free for 12 months. Because we've got the infrastructure, I can teach whatever I need to teach with people, we can support people, but this is pretty bonkers. People need somewhere to go. So we'd had that conversation on the Monday afternoon, and then we launched a new site on the Friday. And myself and 3 other colleagues just worked, one particular colleague, we just worked our absolute backsides off. Now, it's only free for 12 months because everybody should have skin in the game. There's some things we haven't taken in, so there's some learning stuff that I'm not going to take in that we will come back at another time, and we might charge for, we might not, we don't know yet. But just opening the doors and saying, do you know what do you need? Where are you? And then we started on pitching what it needed to look like in terms of support. So our support's quite different from everybody else's. If you ever get a link, if you ever get an email from me that says check out this link, you have permission to hunt me down, because that will never be the case. My email should say to you, what do you need? What can I help you with? What is going on? What questions do we need to answer? So all of the resources we have on the Creative Entrepreneurs Club website are based around need and want. So so we've got all this financial stuff going on, but how do you interpret that? What does it mean? And actually for the creative and social community, up until earlier on today, where there's a new announcement, not much. How do you understand your VAT? We've got a VAT specialist that does one-to-one sessions. What's going on? How are your contracts holding up? We've got somebody that can help you with that. I do stuff around leadership. I'm doing a lot about pivoting business models at the moment. I used to do this. Now can I do that? Yeah, let's try it. Let's just work it through. What's the worst that can happen? At the moment, I haven't furloughed anybody. I'm not convinced I might not. I might furlough myself, which is a bit of a risky strategy. I'm still trying to work that through, but I think actually, there's a strong community around me. So if I did furlough myself, I wouldn't be missed, because a lot of people can run with the wheel, and actually maybe that's great. And the reason I'm thinking about that is we have to runway lengthen. Things are taking quite long to come through. We've managed to secure extra money. I've managed to secure extra support. We've managed to work our way through that. We're not, by any stretch of the imagination, got a full bucket load, but I've got confidence that we went on Friday the 13th, we launched on Friday the 13th. Friday the 13th of March, we had 300 people in Creative Entrepreneurs Club. As of today, before I came on the call, there's 825.
Amazing.
And it's growing and growing. Now, for me, that is brilliant, because yes, it's a great number, but it's brilliant because we've been pitching things correctly, and we can continue to do so. We've got 825 people across 40 different cities.
Great.
In the UK and in Europe, and we're being asked all the time, how can we use the model of support you've got for the creative and social sector to mirror everything else that we've got. So I'm hopeful that actually, you know, things like European money could pay for us to exist. We might always be free. That would be brilliant. Our point of having a mixed model was not to make money. If I wanted to go make money, I'd honestly go and do something else.
Yeah.
But it wasn't about that. It was about having value attached to something. So if you're a paying customer and you're paying for a service, you've got skin in the game because you're paying for that one-to-one tuition. I've got skin in the game, so I've got to give you a cracking service. And I think that kind of two-way street is something we need to really get used to. With the Can Do Collective, that's a wee bit trickier because leading that through has meant lots of one-to-one and personal conversations because people need safe space. And if you're going to give people the opportunity to be in a collective to go forward, and you're the leader of that, then you have to absolutely give everybody the space and time that they need to find their space. Everybody's handling this at different times, and that's the thing that's been very clear to me, is that the pace that everybody's handling that is very different.
Actually, can we outline what the Can Do Collective is and what the Scotland Can Do mission is? Because we've got an international audience here, so I want to really showcase what we're doing.
No, absolutely. How very Scottish of me. I've clearly been living in Glasgow too long, where people say, does that 34 go to Argyle Street? Aye. So sorry, apologies. So the Can Do Collective is a group of about 60 different organisations who are all involved with or representing of services for entrepreneurship, innovation and creativity. So all of the organisations are here to serve entrepreneurs who are in the innovation, creativity and entrepreneurial mindset space. We work across Scotland and we come together around the collective goal to make Scotland the most entrepreneurial, innovative and creative society in the world. So it's a bit of a bold statement, right? And it's a very un-Scottish statement, because we're a bit like, aye, it's all right. But it really is, it's a leading model. There isn't anything else like it in Europe. And one of the things I'm doing at the moment, I sit in a think tank, a UK think tank, which has just been set up for COVID-19, looking at how we can roll out some of our model, but more importantly, look at how we can create the trust and the value that we have within the collective to actually deliver on business. Because the key thing about Can Do Collective is that we're a group of people that are all aligned to one particular mission, which is around making Scotland the most entrepreneurial, innovative and creative society in the world, but also we're aligned to supporting each other in that endeavour. So there's bits that I would do around the creative economy, which is fine, but there would bits that somebody else would be doing around innovation and competition or investment or whatever. We don't encroach on anybody else's patch. Not sometimes that can happen, and that was one of the things that's very important to me when we lost all of our money. I could have easily gone round our ecosystem, applied for money, been in competition with colleagues in other businesses, and I took the deliberate decision, a risky one, but I'm comfortable with that. I would be more disappointed if I'd broke it. I took the decision not to go for anybody else's money. I took the decision not to go into competition with anybody else around me in the collective for the funds that we both needed to survive, and I had to find my money elsewhere. And for me, that was a test to say, if we're really pretty good at what we do, we should be able to survive. It's a bit like Seven Brides for Seven Brothers, that classic movie, which I'm sure you've all seen many times.
Love it.
Love it. Okay, so we're in the tavern. It's the first time that she's about to meet Howard Keel. She pours him like some stew, and he says to her, "Can you pass the ketchup?" And she says to him, "My stew can stand on its own 2 feet." Well, that's me. With the business I've got, I wasn't going to steal anybody else's money. I'm like, I don't need no ketchup, baby. My stew can stand on its own 2 feet. So if the organisation that I was leading or the things that I was involved in were good enough, then I didn't need to be in competition. And that's very difficult when you're dealing with public money, because sometimes there's not enough public money to go around. I don't actually believe that. I think there's plenty of public money. The issue I've got with money, with the public purses, how many hands does it touch before it reaches the people that need it? So there's a kind of trickle through that I challenge quite a lot in certain rooms that I have the privilege to be in. So the collective is a really exciting model. It is not easy bringing 60 plus completely different groups and leaders in a room together to say, let's all do something. Takes a long time to get people on the bus, and actually there's a collective vision that had to be crafted. So we're kind of doing some different things there. We will be having like website stuff coming online very soon. We've got a whole kind of foundation of stuff that's starting to grow. So I kind of do those two things in tandem. But the thing that I'm really focused on is how do we move forward into an entrepreneurial, innovative and creative space around all of this stuff. It's not going to be easy, but it's absolutely necessary. It's vital. In fact, it's fundamental.
Definitely. And guys, if you haven't checked out the Creative Entrepreneurs Club, I highly recommend it. I joined last year. I've done a couple of the courses with Rachel. They were fantastic. I'm a little biased though, you know, so if you haven't checked it out, check it out right now. Rachel, you said that you were thinking of furloughing yourself. Do you know, that's a huge decision to take. A lot of leaders wouldn't do that. Do you think past experiences have set you up to be able to make these decisions? If so, could you maybe give some insight into that?
Yeah, I mean, I think, sure. I mean, I think as any leader worth their salt, and I know many of them, privileged to know many of them are here, you know what you're good at. You know when you need to be around. So if things start to steady down and we kind of hunker down a wee bit in end of May, beginning of June, which I think we might get a wee bit steady, and I need runway lengthening time, that's a good time for me not to be around. If it all kicks off again and the volcano goes mental and somebody needs to start shouting, "This way, we're going down the road," then that's me. But if we're kind of plateauing a wee bit and we're just staying steady, then, and it's about runway lengthening, then it's time for me to step out. It's about knowing your leadership style and where you're at. And I've got colleagues who are good at steadying a ship and they can steer that, and that's absolutely great. My strength is like, what's over there? Can we get there? And how do we join up these 10 disparate things to get to that space? So it's about knowing where and when in the journey. I wouldn't have done it now. I wouldn't have done it 5 weeks ago, because the skills that I have were needed. But I think, like anybody in any role, in any position that you're in, you know when to dip in and dip out. And I'm not. I would hope I'm not. I mean, this is always a difficult one, and it's kind of as a female leader, I get this a lot. I get, "Oh, Rachel's dead passionate. Oh, she's so good at, oh my God, oh, she's all this, all that." And I get spoken about as a female leader in emotional terms. And it really pisses me off, because nobody ever speaks about my counterpart male leaders in emotional terms. Do you know, they never do that. You know, if I'm making a decision, people are like, "Oh gosh, she's dead passionate about that subject or that decision." If my colleague in another area who's a male leader, he's been decisive. What's that all about? Don't get me started. That's a whole other session.
We can do a whole other event on that, because
and we're seeing that a lot. Yeah. Where women are being emotional and we're, oh my God, blah 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 blah, and men are being decisive and making decisions, and that can go low. That can really shove it, because this kind of the diversity in the room. Look at this room. The diversity in the room. That is what is going to get us through this. So no offence to anybody in the room who is male, pale and blonde of a certain era, but they can shove it. They need to move over and get out of our way. Sorry about that.
Amazing. No, I love it. I think Nick's got the question next, so I'm just waiting for him.
I was just laughing and just making sure that I wasn't too pale. I've actually been out in the sun today, so hopefully I'm still going to be part of this. So yeah, Rachel, I wanted to know, what response have you seen from businesses that has been good, that you have seen has promoted hope?
I mean, that's a great question, because actually there is lots. I think once people got through their initial holy schmoly, what is going on, you're seeing some really good people rising to the top. You're seeing, and actually when you're in a situation like this, you know, you start, it's an old phrase, but you do see people's true colours, do you know? And, you know, there's some organisations that are just resorting to type. You know, culturally, we always kind of knew that's what they were like, and then they're just behaving that way, and you're like, nah, whatever. But there are organisations that are really stepping it up, organisations that are communicating really well to their staff, to their customers, to the people that want to be invested in them. And there are organisations that are changing product and pivoting. I mean, I think naturally some of the bigger organisations are finding this really, really tough. So you know, like Morrison's and EE and a couple of others are doing support for NHS. That's brilliant, I get that, but there's a bit of me that was eye rolling it, you know. You're like, ah, mate, of course you are. So there's sometimes, and I think that's part of this, the journey that we're in at the moment, where we're all becoming a bit more critical around, hold on a minute. So I think that, I don't doubt actually Morrison's is a family business. I don't doubt that their motivations are genuine. It's sometimes the communication, you have to get these things really, really correct. And sometimes it can be difficult. So I think the bigger organisations are going to find it even tougher as we go in. I think there are like small things, like I get my milk delivered from a social enterprise in glass bottles, which I just love, right? I mean, check me. I mean, I wear Toms, for God's sake. I've got recycled jeans on. Do you know what I mean? I am proper living the hipster crap. But I love it, right? And so we, you know, left a wee note for the person that delivers our milk on a Tuesday. And then they left a wee note for us. And what did I do? I went and bought more milk. Do I need any more milk? No. Right? But I was like, I'm loving this. I'm loving this wee business. This is brilliant. You know, I feel like I'm single-heartedly buying my extra 2 pints of milk, keeping this local business in check. So I think there's things that people are doing that really impress me about solid communication. Solid communication about, I don't have all the answers, but you know what? I'm turning up every day and I'm here for you. Solid communication around, I've had to make difficult decisions, but see when we get back, watch out, because we are ready for this opportunity. And organisations that genuinely are living their values. You know, this is a time of the cult. You know, strategy can eat culture eats strategy for breakfast all day long. And every one of us has seen a business plan or a strategy just kind of put it off into the sunset, and we might never see that again. And I think the biggest danger, businesses that are doing I had my plan here, and it's all going a bit wobbly, but you know what? I'm just going to do the same plan online, a wee bit over here, a wee bit smaller, because I'm cutting costs. Anybody who tells me one more time that doing stuff online cuts costs, honestly, I'm going to lamp them. It doesn't cut costs at all. Yes, it cuts hardware costs and overhead costs, but see the amount of development time and the amount of expertise you need to get it right. That just bumps everything up. You're spending even more money because you need better people. See the amount of shite I've watched the last 5 weeks on Zoom. I'm like, if I didn't have a drink issue before, gee whiz, that's torture. People are sitting speaking shite for 2 hours. I'm like, mate, what is the content here? What are you telling me? You're telling me how to fill in an application form. What is what? So there's a number of things I think as we go forward, we're going to need to see new products and services. And I think the organisations that are demonstrating value around their culture, value around their ability to treat their staff and their customers well, value around the communications that they put out that are genuine and that are consistent. This is the time to be consistent. Have one message. As much as I hate it, there's a bit of get Brexit done moment here. There really is just like one thing. We're just going to get out. We're going to keep going because it's the North Star. They're the people I'm excited about because not only have they handled this with integrity, they're going to create the new products and services going forward. And I think that there's a real appetite for the new and the supported, and I call it the social pounds. We're going to start spending our money in a completely different way. If we have money, we're going to start spending it in a different way, or we're going to see much more bartering going on. What can you do for me and what can I do for you? Where's my skill share? And we're going to see that a lot more. And I'm up for that. I'm up for experimenting on all of that. I'm up for trading skills, because trading skills breeds creativity and it breeds talent. And if we do not get that together, we will lose our talent to other spaces and places. Even though traveling is going to be difficult, the people that can will, because it's going to be difficult. So I think there's lots to play for, and we need to be light and fancy on our feet. A lot of the cha-cha-cha is going to start coming through going forward.
Man, that's a lot to unpack right there.
Can I ask a question first? Sorry, just can I butt in? Because I have a question. It's been asked in the chat as well. So the people, we need to know, who are these milk gods? How can we support them?
McQueen's Dairies.
There we go, guys.
McQueen's.
There we go.
That's in Glasgow. So I'm a big fan of real CSR, and I think with what we've seen from different leadership organizations across the world and how they've handled this, a certain degree of cynicism is earned. And when it comes to kind of CSR and greenwashing, we are quick to call bullshit on organizations that we think are kind of ambulance chasing. And if we get to talk to about the new normal later on, I think being compassionate about our local business ecosystems and supporting local enterprise is something that we should really try and keep in our minds as we try and adjust to this new dynamic that we're looking into. So I love that you're already doing it on a kind of micro level with your milkmen. From a more practical point of view, Rachel, in terms of the Creative Entrepreneurs Club, I know that whenever I speak to you, you're just off a call with somebody who's going through a hardship. Like, what kind of services are you offering, and what are you seeing from the creative industries, from the freelancers, from the solo entrepreneurs this time?
Yeah, lots of things. And just before we answer that, just CSR. So so corporate social responsibility, I don't like that phrase. I like to call it corporate social relevance. And if businesses now at a corporate level have got social relevance, then they'll survive.
Yeah, like that.
It's like social responsibility. Chuff off. I can look after myself. I don't need you to be socially responsible for me. You have to make yourself socially relevant to me, and then I'll listen. So I think there's a dynamic that's going to change there. I think some of the bigger organisations that are doing it well will recognise that. Will recognise the power of the customer quite quickly. And I think if if we're armed with new language, I think that'll help. But in answer to your question around some of the challenges, I think there are several things. I think there are definitely issues around how our freelance portfolio and gig economy and self-starters are treated. I think there's a massive tax base within that group of people that I support, and they're never really given the credit or the support they're due. If you look at the creative sector as a whole, there's a disproportionate amount of people that do pay higher rate tax, and they work in a whole range of different fields, and they job different things. They might have 6 months contract here or 3 months contract there, but they're completely mobile and transient, and they're a huge asset to our economy, and they're an untapped tax base insofar as insofar as we don't know enough about them. We don't know as much about them as we should. So people might go and spend 6 months in America filming, and then spend 3 months in Italy filming, and then come back here. So there's this kind of transient population of creative and social entrepreneurs that we support, and I'm really passionate about, because I think that could lead into a whole range of different things. So if you work on something like Outlander, for example, which has completely stopped filming, which is a big employer in Cumbernauld, and you're probably earning 2, 3, 4, 5 grand a month, 1 month, and then literally the next month, nothing. What do you do about that? And your standard of living is based often on that income bracket. So how do you even get your head into that? Now, there's sort of 3 things there. One, those people are highly employable, but they've just been doing a certain thing. So how do you help people understand the employability that they have and the skills that they have? Because a lot of creative and social entrepreneurs, I'm sure like you guys in the room here, you sort of don't know how good you are. you kind of take these things in your stride, and you're always like problem solving, you're always critical thinking, you're always moving in and out of teams, you're team players and you can work on your own, but you're actually doing it at speed, and you're doing it across organizations, you're doing it across cultures, and you're doing it across different levels of projects, and you're doing it, you can be in one room with a group of people, in another room with another group of people. Their skills are really malleable. People don't know how good they are. So I spend a lot of time it's, you know, speaking to people, just kind of going like, that's amazing, that sounds brilliant, right? We can do this, and this, let's just draw that out. So that's one thing. And people have got this weird, we're terribly Scottish sometimes as well, and I know this is a global audience, but it happens often elsewhere, you know, where we're too we don't want to fail. Showing weakness is a failure. So we can't fail because, you know, we'll just get chastised for being fail. You don't want to fail. Nobody ever lets you forget it. But equally, we can't be too successful because you can't get too big for your boots. So we've got this enormous amount of talent trundling along in the middle of Scotland, in the middle, pretending they're mediocre when actually they're fabulous. And we need to just kind of get out of this wee thing here and open the doors. Be like, guys, voila, look how awesome you are. So we need a big confidence boost. That's one of the things we need to do. And we need to get moving on that quickly. So I spend a lot of time with that. I spend a lot of time with really practical stuff with people around, I've got a business idea and it wasn't working before. Or I've got a business idea and this was going to be my best year yet. That's the most common thing. And actually it's that sense of loss. This is going to be my best year yet. What the heck am I going to do now? It's like, well, do you know what? Next year might be your best year yet. Do you know what? You never knew that. We thought in February that you had a plan. We've got no plan. Let's make a new plan. Let's not worry about the plan. This plan's gone. Shut it down. Let's bring it forward. The other bit that I'm speaking a lot to people about is that yes, they may have had a 3-year growth plan, but actually what they were going to achieve in year 3, they're going to now achieve in the next 3 months. And things have flipped on its head. So things that are needing speeding up, we need to give people strategies for success and toolkits for success to speed up. So how do you speed up the development of something you were planning for, like a metronome? And actually what's dead interesting, when you start unpicking things with people, you realise that, do you know what, we were a wee bit slow, actually. We were a wee bit slow. We maybe could have done that faster. So maybe we could have taken a few more risks. And because at the moment all bets are off, and we're already losing quite a lot, let's use this time wisely. Use the time to get your house in order. You know, use your time to do the HR book that you've never written, or use the time to get the operational structure in place that you've never had time to do, or use the time to think differently about what your business could be. How do we bring everything fast forward around? Come October time, we're going to need so many creative thinkers. It's going to be really quite crazy. We're no, you know, the peak of the virus is one thing. The peak of our challenge in our economy is something quite different. So people people need time to grieve. I speak to a lot of people who, you know, especially people who are very often on their own as single parents with children, and being a freelancer worked around their lifestyle. How do they cope with that? People who are newly self-employed, how are they coping with that? Because there's a lot of people that are not getting any support at all. So it's trying to find strategies for success around that, trying to enable employable people to realise how employable they are. And also try to be a bit of a dating agency around that. We need to come together faster. Do you know, there's opportunities and jobs available, but I don't have at the moment around me, and I desperately need it, the kind of links to kind of pull all that together. To go, actually, somebody came on the call who was a copywriter, brilliant, but she was like, it was tourism and whiskey, brilliant. She's on a call with a colleague, and we were like, we must be able to find her freelance stuff in amongst our network, but I just don't have those threads to draw on. So it's like a wee tapestry. So it's about getting people ready faster. And I've got some ideas about what I want to do that. I want to raise some money and just pay people to be creative, employ people myself. That's my next idea.
I love that.
So before we jump to Jude's, like, to the global audience, I think that that's one of Scotland's great unique selling points, is that we can put you in touch with the right person quickly and kind of join the dots really quickly, because we have that. We're not precious about our contacts. We want to see things happen, and we love momentum. So, of course, I mean, this is what Startup Grind is, the community and the wider Scottish entrepreneurial ecosystem. The asks are there, the help is there. It's just, you just got to get in front of the right person and make things happen.
Totally.
I'm quite excited about this question, I'm not going to lie. I asked you about this way back in August, and I'm going to revisit it. Your answer in August was amazing, so I'm excited to see what you say now. You tweeted in August, being resilient isn't about being stubborn, it's about listening and learning. It's about knowing that there's a bigger goal, and obstacles in the way that frustrate, hold you back and bring you down, but you keep moving forward. How important is that tweet now more than ever?
Well, it's hugely important now, and actually the context of that tweet was when I got the note to say that we weren't going to get our money. I had 3 months cash left in the bank in the organisation that I was leading, and I had to decide whether we were going to sink or swim. And I chose at that point to move forward with the organisation and create something new alongside the board and alongside others in the community. And as soon as I made that decision with colleagues, I knew it was the right decision. But for about 16 months afterwards, everybody kept telling me it was the wrong decision. And I say everybody, right? That's a very Scottish thing to say. You know, everybody said it was a disaster. Well, it wasn't, right? There was probably, you know, a handful of people that I can remember saying it was a disaster, but more people saying, good for you, you know, make it happen. But you only ever remember the negative stuff, because that's how it makes you feel. You always remember how things, you seldom remember actually what people say, but you always remember how people make you feel. Maya Angelou, always beautiful woman, used to say that all the time, and that's very true. And I think that when somebody says something negative to you, it sits with you longer, because when somebody says something nice to you, you go, oh, shucks, whatever, and you forget about it because you're too embarrassed, but the hard stuff sits with you. So the context of that was I was told relentlessly by key people actually in our ecosystem that I was wrong, and I kept not getting my money and all this other stuff. But I knew the more I spoke to the businesses and the creative community that I was working with, and the more I was out speaking to people that would use the service and speaking to people on the ground, I knew that the marketplace was right. I knew that the idea of what we could create was right. So that's the context of that tweet. Now, what that has given me, and I shouldn't joke about this, right, because we're in a serious situation, but I was built for this shit. Like, see the stuff that we're in now. I'm like, okay, global pandemic, is that what we've got now? Have we? All right. So what we need to do is blow up the traditional structures. Oh, look, who's taking my call now? So it's a bit like, come on, we have got an opportunity for change. And resilience means that you're able to get up every day and say, this is the North Star for us. There's going to be bumps along the way. I know the map, but I do not know the terrain that we're on. But I tell you something, in my rucksack, I've got my crampons, I've got my trainers, I've got my hill walking boots. Hell, I've even got my cha-cha shoes, because I do not know what's coming. But I've got them all in my bag. And at any given time, I will walk this terrain and I will find a way through. I know the map. The map is familiar to me. I know the country. I know what we're in. I know Scottish Government stuff. I know Scottish Enterprise. I know Creative Scotland. I know the marketplace. I know Visit Scotland and Skills Development Scotland, the Scottish Funding Council and the jobs market. I know all these things. So if I know that and we're all trying to discover the terrain together, then let's do that together. But be rest assured, I've got the right kit in my toolkit, my rucksack, to get us through that. And that's sometimes when you've been through difficult situations as a leader, that these things, you know, you've got to take them all as a learning opportunity and a learning experience, because there's nothing tougher for me personally in the last 2 years, and standing in front of a staff team who actually didn't believe in me when my dad had died and we lost our money, and people just going, so what are you going to do about it? And I just felt so helpless. And I don't feel like that often, but I felt so helpless. And I thought, do you know what? The learning experience for me there is my rucksack is going to be fuller than it's ever been. I kid you not, my husband has got a zombie apocalypse rucksack in the hall cupboard. Honestly, if this shit goes proper south, come to the east end of Glasgow, we've got it all covered. We've got a camping bag. And I laugh at him about it, but then do you know that way? I was like, oh my God, no wonder we're married, because like there is nothing. There's kind of this whole is the way that you think. I know I've got everything plastered out. I've even got foil things to keep me warm. We're not going down, people. It's all going to be fantastic.
It's amazing. I'm going to be riding a sidecar on your Mad Max excursion, Rachel. So listen, we're going to talk about some blue sky thinking now.
Yeah.
We're going to, if we haven't already, we're going to paint the sky bluer than we ever thought possible. So given what we've seen recently with all the amazing socially driven initiatives and discussions of inclusion and mental health, what positive opportunities do you think there are that we can carry on through this into the new normal?
I mean, another great question, because I think that there's so many opportunities. I think what we have to get right is what we want to achieve first, because the world is changing, and there's lots of stakeholders that will become more relevant and lots of stakeholders that will become irrelevant in this new world. So it's not that we're just going to have the same world, but we're going to be a bit kinder and a bit more social with each other. It's completely changing. And what does the structure look like for that change? Can we handle it? So for example, I'm homeschooling my children at the moment amidst everything else. And it's really got me thinking about what is it that we're teaching our children. I mean, my kids are 7 and 8. And what experience are they getting from us at home that mirrors and or enhances what's going on in school? And their schoolwork, I mean, I would say this, but their schoolwork's not terribly entrepreneurial. Their schoolwork is foundational, and I get that. You need to know that bit before you can move on to that bit, and you need to know that bit before you can move on to that bit. And I get that, and I respect that. There's also a bit of me going, do we though? Like, do we? What foundations do we really need? My children need foundations of values. They get invested in at home, right? So they can actually problem solve pretty fast. My wee guy set up an auction on Friday night. He's of the view that if COVID is still here when he's 16, he's going to need resources. So he set up an auction. He took things from his room, and also he painted things and made some stuff, and he tried to sell it to us with a glass of wine. He made sure that Mummy and Daddy had a glass of wine. And yeah, he knows what it's all about. And he tried to sell me this A4 bit of paper with a drawing on it for £100 and 40 pence. That's how much it was at auction. Like, it's not going to happen. But actually, he was doing all of his subjects through that. And then he started thinking about, and then he said to me the classic phrase that children are you start to hear this. He said, "But Mummy, this money isn't for me. Mummy, this money is for all the boys and girls who don't have mummies and daddies, and for the boys and girls who don't have food in their fridge," and list of those things. Of course, then it's like, I love my child, but also I hate him because I'm literally about to give him £100 and 40 pence. Because not that I have that actually, but he's just saying all the right things. Like, he's just read me like a book, because he's just created in his head. He knows exactly what he's got. He knows exactly how fortunate he is, and he knows exactly what somebody else doesn't. I'm like, I'm not doing the 3 times table with you. I can't do that. I'm sorry, school. I'm not going to do the 3 times table, because I'm going to have to take this thread of my child's learning to the next degree. So if he does create something when he's 16, then actually it's the right thing for the people and the community that he's based in. So I think that there's something about really, we need a quiet revolution around structures that has to happen, and I think we need to see a dismantling of big organizations that hold us together. You know, I'm really taken with Estonia, for example. Estonia have an entirely digitally led government. They're sort of handling COVID all right, because the whole government's been digital for many years now, and their cities are run digitally, and they've always had, Chamber has always been able to be digital. So there's like some really interesting sort of models that we can look to. So I think we need to do that first. I think from a social and a creative point of view, who knows what the opportunities are? Because 10 years ago we didn't have Uber and we didn't have Airbnb. We could predict that they were coming, but we didn't have them. If you look at behaviour, you can predict that things are coming. If we look at behaviour, you can predict that there'll be a change in services. There'll be a change in how we purchase things, for sure. I'm pretty sure once we get through this necessity, we'll see a drop in retail, supermarket retail. We'll see a big change there. And that's going to be tough because food is going to be more expensive. We're used to unrealistic challenges, unrealistic prices and things there. So in answer to your question, I don't know if I know, but I'm up for the quiet revolution. I'm up for people being given the space, time and freedom to explore. I think if you, I don't think we're just going to see a change in businesses being one kind of business and a business being another kind of more social creative business. I don't think it's not going to be a transaction. I think transactions are going to change. You can see that things are going to be different. And we're going to, you know, we're going to see a lot of bartering going on in our community. I mean, look at all the things that, you know, before Christmas, you know, horrible scenes in our parliament, UK parliament, of people not getting the pay rise they deserve in the NHS. And then now, can you only imagine if that had happened now? That's unthinkable now in a short space of time, because we're valuing that service so much. Imagine what's unthinkable in 6 months' time that we don't know about yet. That's really it's quite moving, actually.
It is. We've still got a lot to play for in this race. Rachel, we're going to leave the questions from Jude and I for now, because the chat and the slides has been going absolutely bananas, and we need to save time for the wonderful international keynotes and motivational speaker and author Gavin Oates is going to close our evening. So Jude, can I throw to you to get some questions from our community here?
You absolutely can, but only if we can do a group photo first, because I'd love to see all your smiling faces. So I'm going to ask Alan, our technical man, to take a wee photo of us. Alan, is that okay?
So if we've got a second for people to get ready that have maybe got their cameras off, to grab something weird, a drink or something nearby, and turn the cameras on if they're comfortable to do it for just a second to get a group photograph here.
Let's see your lovely faces. Oh, someone brought an animal into, that's it. Laura's won. Laura has won with the is that a puppy? Oh my goodness.
Got my favorite glass
of a full-blown dog. Craig's got a full-blown dog.
Oh, guys.
Got a beautiful cup. Alan, is that
right, big smiles. Yeah, I'm in red. Big smiles, guys.
Oh my God, we have so many dogs.
Raise something up. I've got the bottle of whiskey, for example.
So we're going to raise a glass to the potential of the new normal for us.
The new normal.
Hey, are we good?
Yeah, just wait for Declan. Declan, yeah, you run away. We good.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I've done like 25 screenshots.
That's probably enough.
It's definitely enough. And also really appreciating all of the puppy and dog content. My favorite thing about Zoom calls at the moment with my work is definitely the animal content. And just a really quick side story. There's a new girl at my work who's going to be sitting next to me who has two beautiful cats. And I'm so sad that when we go into the office, she's not going to be able to bring them with her. suggesting we just go work at her house, but hey ho. So Rachel, the first question we have is from our chapter director in Edinburgh, Declan. Declan, I'm just going to unmute you.
Hello.
Off you go. Hi.
I can speak. It's amazing.
Hey.
Well, first of all, Rachel, thank you for that. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It's actually an actual pleasure to be an audience member, much less stressful to watch the event. And one thing that I was really, really keen to ask, and it's something that I've heard a lot from my network and people that I know in the creative industry, a lot of it comes down to doing work for free. And I know it's something that there's definitely a phrase of it which I've 100% forgotten, but especially when it comes to photographers, as a really specific example. What's your take on it? I guess maybe from a experience perspective during COVID-19, given that a lot of work is dried up and it's really, really difficult to get your name out there. What's your take on it?
Yeah, so I've got two views on that. So I was on a call on Friday where we were discussing this at a European level, and the creative community were the first to jump in when COVID happened to offer free services and support and creativity, and that's across the spectrum. So it's like theatre work and museums and films and a whole range of music, lots of things, lots of free concerts for jumping in. But that's brilliant because that was generous and it's culturally enriching, and it, you know, that classic piece from Winston Churchill at the war time where somebody was saying to him, you know, we need to cut the funding for arts and creativity, and his response was, well, if we cut funding for arts and creativity, then what else are we fighting for? So there's a real acknowledgement that cultural and creative endeavours are going to play a huge role, and do play a huge role in our lives. We've just never valued it in the commercial sense in the same way. Bit of an issue though, because how do you turn that into an income stream when you're used to getting such rich content for free? So somebody has to pick up the tab. So there's two schools of thought. One that's got to be supported to do so, and I'm a big fan of basic income to do that, as well as being funded through public money. I think it's enriching, so I think it makes us better people. That's why we should do it. But there's also another interesting thing around, well, would people pay for it if they were asked differently? And there's a brilliant stat that I was really taken with. The New York Met, the Opera House in New York Met, every month we'd have 100,000 people view their online opera content. Now, the New York Met is like one of the biggest opera companies in the world. It's one, if not the biggest, one of the biggest creative opera companies in the world. And that's, so 100,000 people a month, that's amazing. The first month in lockdown, though we don't like that phrase, they went to 2 million people. And 2 million, so 100,000 people, 2 million people. Now, if everybody paid a £5, that would be amazing. So there's something about making the transaction different, I think. As a general rule, and I think before COVID and after COVID, I feel the same. I hate it when people tell me that they've done work for free. I hate it. If you're working, say you're working 30 hours a week, right, as a photographer, and you decide that you're going to do 6 hours a month or 10 hours a month for free, because you really feel that you want to be valued in a certain space and you want to work with Startup Grind, or you want to work with a local community, or you want to work with another creative, absolutely 1000% behind that. Not for any other reason. So for people that do, so that classic thing where Sainsbury's said, oh, come and paint our wall, it's great exposure. No, you know, do you want to do a gig? Everybody, oh, I can bring you like 100,000 people to hear it. It'd be amazing, great exposure. Like, what are you talking about? Put my ass on the screen, I'll get great exposure. What are you talking about? So I just like, fundamentally it drives me mental. And it's a value thing. And so I get incensed by that, but I also get incensed with creative people. Because then creative people go, oh, it's not that good, you know, I just did a wee thing, it's all right. See, if I had £1 for every time I sat in a room with a creative person that talked themselves out of a job or talked themselves down out of something, I would be lauded. Because it's like, oh, I just sort of, you know, I mean, I mean, I've taken these pictures of when I was walking in Glencoe, and you know, I mean, they're all right, and then they start telling you why the sky is not the right kind of red that they wanted, and I'm like, mate, do you want my 100 quid or not? Like, I'm actually trying to buy this from you, and you're telling me all the things that you could have done differently. I'm not interested. Understand the customer. Understand the customer. So I think there's sort of two separate things, but they're connected. I think creatives need confidence, and they need to be selling, and selling's not a bad thing. And especially if I want to give you the money for it, it's not a bad thing. Don't talk me out of I don't know what a filter is. I don't give a shit. I just know my mum would like it. Let me buy it. And then this other side of, well, it's great exposure, but I've only got 50 quid, can you not do it for free and all this. So the whole thing's kind of messy. For me, a general rule, don't do anything for free unless it's your choice for your community and how you want to do it. And use your exposure that way. If it's about that, you're going to say, do you know what, work's dried up, but actually there's an amazing little young person's project down the street. I'm going to give some of my time there. I'm going to give them cracking photographs because they'd never be able to afford me. I'm a bit of a sticky wicket. And do you know what, I'm going to tell everybody about this amazing project. And that's a great story. Think about it differently. See these two things that go like that, go like that.
Amazing. Johnny, I think you have an anonymous question for us.
An anonymous question? How can Johnny have an anonymous question? Oh, no, it's not from Johnny. Sorry.
Not from Johnny, no. He's reading it from the Slido.
I can confirm it's not from me. So yeah, Slido. If you want to go on, get your questions answered, upvote some of the other questions on there as well. And we'll try and get to the most popular ones. And there's a little queue going just now. So one of the most popular ones on Slido at the moment is, what positive stories have you heard from the creative industries throughout this? We've had a little bit of it, and are big companies still contracting freelancers for projects? So related to the last question, but some good stories from that.
I think there's loads of good stories. There's loads of good stories about people joining stuff up and coming together. I mean, you know, if you go on to on the Creative Entrepreneurs Club, we've got a group set up for Skillshare where we can Skillshare with each other. We've got a group where we're posting jobs. We've got loads of jobs up there, and we're posting opportunities for people. I think there's something about opening your own front door and just walking through it and being out there. So notoriously, creative people aren't great at networking. A lot of people don't really like networking. I love networking. I absolutely love networking. And the reason I love networking is because I love people. I love finding out about people. I love chatting to people. I love engaging with people. It's fascinating. I don't have a pitch. I don't have a 15-second elevator nonsense. I don't have any of that. I've got tons of stories that give people an idea of what I do, and they're all crafted and I've made them that way, but I don't have a pitch. So I think that creatives need to get used to doing that, and they're really good at it. They're the sexiest product out there. There's tons to sell, just not good at selling. I think the positive stories I've heard are that there's new collaborations coming on all the time. There's new ways of creating theatre and music and dance, and marketing campaigns are really stepping up. Advertising's looking great. We actually have a sort of glut of talent that we should take care of and nurture and deliver for. And that's hugely exciting. So I think, you know, I've got nothing specific, and I wouldn't want to highlight particular people or individuals, but I think there is some really exciting developments. You know, I used to do lots of trade missions, and if you took, you know, somebody that made a widget, and we went to Berlin and they met BMW and they said to BMW, do you want my widget? BMW said, yeah, I'll take your widget. And everybody got really excited because somebody went to Berlin and BMW bought a widget. So I was like, well, do you know what, let's take a filmmaker, or let's take a DJ to Berlin, and let's see what happens. Yeah, well, what's going to happen? Who's going to buy their widget? Will BMW want their widget? I'm like, I don't know. Nobody knows what's going to happen. We're going to put the filmmaker and the music maker in a room together in Berlin, and we're just going to see what happens. And do you know what? Guess who bought that product? BMW. So it's like nobody knows. When you put creative people in a room together, nobody knows what's going to come out, and we have to get used to that. We've been in a situation where we're so used to everybody purchasing widgets that we don't really think that there's anything beyond that. So I'm a fan of taking everybody elsewhere, putting them in a room together and seeing what's happening. And I've seen tons of amazing collaborations over the last 5 weeks. People are starting to get excited cross sectors. So lots of really great stuff about people working in the social space, doing amazing films, amazing photography, and hooking that up.
Amazing. We're going to go to Anais. I'm sorry.
It's so good. Don't worry about it. Hi, Rachel. You. I had a question about vulnerability in the workplace. I'm lucky enough to work in an environment where we celebrate small wins, big wins, small mistakes, big mistakes, and we make it okay. But from talking to some people around me, friends, other founders, I've realized it's not always a space. Usually people want to do it, but founders especially think they might appear weak. And I think that's a big problem. So I was wondering if you had any tips on how to start that conversation about vulnerability in the workplace, especially at the moment. I think it's quite important.
Yeah, I think there's a different, I mean, it's a really great question. I think there's I spend a lot of time with leaders who really panic about that, who really panic about showing that level of vulnerability, because they don't want to, not that they don't want to appear weak, actually, they don't want to appear not in control. And often leaders need to be in control. And I think that's really difficult. I think it's difficult for people to understand that you can be in control and also vulnerable. Because people are thinking, I don't really get that. That's pretty challenging. I don't know. I think, I'm not sure I have any tips, because I think that these kinds of things culturally sit and fit within the organisation that they're in. And sometimes when I've been in organisations where people want to do it, and you're in the organisation for maybe sometimes 5 minutes and sometimes maybe a couple of hours, and you realise that I know the desire's there, but the actual culture of this organisation is not going to allow for that to happen. You have to, because you actually, in order to show vulnerability, you do have to have strength as well. And so you have to have a strength that guides you through. So I think there's a real responsibility for leaders in that situation to put their oxygen masks on first, and to give people the parameters around that vulnerability. So, I mean, I had an experience where I used to work for somebody who would regularly lose it, and they'd be hiding in the kitchen, and they'd be like, it's okay, it's good for people to see that we're upset. And I'm like, this is not okay. Mm-hmm. This is not okay. Like, losing it is not okay. Like, we can lose it together, or we can lose it elsewhere, but see, this, we have to really understand the impact that you have. Your emotions have an impact on people. So I think there's something about setting the right tone within the culture that you have around having good days and bad days. I mean, I will regularly text and email and phone and say to people, do you know what, I'm not having a great day today. I'm not going to be around because I'm not going to be able to give you any of the answers I need. I'm having a pretty rubbish day. I'm going to go over here and I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. Or, you know, when we lost our money, there's a lot of tears and people were crying, and I was crying, and it's like, this is a crappy day. It doesn't mean that showing vulnerability is something that it's not a one or the other. And I think that sometimes also comes into play, because and I think sometimes it's a particular thing for female leadership. If you show vulnerability as a female leader, people think you're an emotional basket case all the time, and you have this kind of challenge. And I definitely get that a lot when I'm talking around that class. And Rachel's dead passionate. You're like, I'm actually quite boring and I'm pretty sensible. I'm not actually like that all of the time. So I think it's different. And so I don't really have an answer to you. That's a pretty crappy answer about being vulnerable. I think there's a need for transparency. I think there's a need for parameters. I think you need to know what kind of vulnerability your culture can stand. I've been in cultures where people have shown vulnerability, and in the coffee room is being chastised a wee bit for it, and that's not cool. So you have to stamp that out, and you have to be on top of that, very much so.
Rachel, I have to say one of the words I don't think I'd ever use to describe you is boring, but that again is another conversation. We're going to head over to Tobias, who has a question. Hi, Tobias.
Hey, thanks, Rachel, for the honesty and authenticity. It was amazing. And the enthusiasm that you have about the situation, it resonates a lot with myself. So my question was around the new normal. So I feel you answered a lot of that. So I don't want to ask that again. But the thing I would like to hear from your perspective, what do you feel are the key skills that will thrive in post-COVID?
I definitely believe creativity is a key skill that we're all going to need and support. I think critical thinking, problem solving are absolutely up there. And I also think that a critical skill is communication. One of the things that really, about a year ago, I got asked this question by a group of young people that I was speaking with, and they asked me how I liked people, how I worked with people I didn't like. And I was slightly baffled by that, and I thought it was a really odd question to ask. And then a couple of weeks later, I got asked the same question, and then I got asked the same question. And I've been getting it asked repeatedly through different times with different audiences. How do you work with people you don't like? And it got me thinking about people's communication skills. And actually, I work with loads of people I don't like. I work with loads of people I really like. But that's not really how any of this comes together. So I think negotiation skills are going to be key. I think communication skills are going to be key. I think having the ability to communicate to people on many levels. Like this is, we've all been zoomed out of our nut for the last 5 weeks. This is a really challenging environment. Your content has to be really good to survive. You've got to be a really good communicator to be able to manage multiple platforms, and not everybody has that skill. And I think if you can't just pick up what you did in your live life and put it into your online life. It has to be changed. You have to change it up a bit. It has to be different. So I think that there's something around creativity, communication, definitely resilience, problem solving, and critical thinking would be really my top 5 skills of the future. And some of those, there's a whole bunch of stuff that you can learn. Some of those stuff you have to craft, and they're different things. Learning and crafting are different things. Just the same as knowledge and information are 2 entirely different things.
That's amazing. If anyone's looking for a way to get their creativity flowing, by the way, download TikTok. That is how I've been pushing out my creative channels.
Do you
know what? I'm too old to be on TikTok. I don't care. I'm having a great time in self-isolation. It's Jude Avril Duncan, if anyone wants to follow me. We are going to, after that shameless plug, we're going to jump to Evelyn, who has a question. Hi, Evelyn.
Hi. Thanks, Rachel. It's a great presentation. I'm seeing a lot of companies and organizations who are trying loads of new stuff just because needs must. And one of the things I'm thinking about, and I'm interested in your thoughts, is how do we pull what's really good about all of these new things that we're doing and be intentional about how we create our new normal and take them into the new normal?
That's a great question. Evelyn. Totally. I think one of the starting points are so one of the things we don't gather, we don't prototype and we don't gather data enough. We don't do that enough. So there needs to be much more prototyping and data capturing around experiences, and we don't do that enough. And it's not. I'm sure we've all been in this scenario where you've seen projects or businesses, and you ask just through conversation, somebody will tell you a nugget of gold, and you go, oh, when did that happen? And they go, oh, do you know, we did that 5 years ago. Oh, it was great. Oh, you should have seen it. And you go, oh, is there something I can look at? Is there any data? Is there a case study? Is there oh, no, I think Jackie did it. She left. And so we just don't have any of that stuff gathered. So we need to get better at recording all of those things. I think that would be a key thing, is recording everything. And also, I think it's brilliant that lots of people are trying new things and taking risks and doing all these things. But why? Is it to just to have more of your old normal back? So like your kind of your live life, your normal was here and that's been disrupted? Are you just trying to get your old normal back by doing some of these other things? Like, why are you doing them? Do you know what you're doing them? And more importantly, if you know why you're doing them, are you managing the unintended consequences? So they'll always, you know, it's that classic WD-40 moment, isn't it? Do you know, like, all the best things often happen by accident. So are you recording all of that to find out if you've had your WD-40 moment? And I think that also the more you can do that in collaboration, the better. I think it would be brilliant to see more organisations cross-develop together and prototype together and find out who can do things together. Like, there's lots of organisations that are thinking about moving their business one way because their old way isn't working. That doesn't mean they have to completely pivot and do everything themselves. Find a stream of partners who can do a whole bunch of stuff with them and then collaborate. So one of the organisations I'm working with is a fashion brand. They're making scrubs now. And actually through the scrubs, they've realised that there's a lack of seamstresses. There's a lot of seamstresses, with a lack of seamstresses. So actually they're pairing up with somebody who supports seamstresses, and this other whole other things coming. But they never thought about that before because it wasn't part of their issue within their business, and they're collaborating with somebody else. So I think documentation, prototyping, collaboration, and understanding why you're trying the new things. Lots of people are just trying them. They're not asking really deeply why, and they'll use the reason, oh, because that's not working anymore. That's not a reason. Well, we have to do it online because we can't do it live. That's not the reason for doing it online. They're completely different things.
There we go.
I'm conscious of time. Are we time? I've just noticed. Do you know, I keep coming back because you keep moving around, Gav, and I keep looking, going, that's definitely Gav, because I recognise the paper.
We're doing it right now, Rachel, so we're going to call time on the questions. Thank you, everyone, for doing that. I want to give a quick shout out to our partners, CMS. Go get your free legal advice from them next Tuesday. If you've got a business right now looking for mentorship, AWS, this is Mentorship Month, and do it. And if you guys have enjoyed this evening with Rachel, we've got some big events coming up. So 28th of April, we're looking at the future of healthcare with Andrew Parfait, the co-founder and CEO of CareSourcer, and Christopher McCann, co-founder and CEO of Current Health. On the 7th of May, we're hosting Barrington Reeves from design agency To Gallus, looking at effective branding in unprecedented times. And on the 14th of May, we have got Gavin Oates, motivational entrepreneur with his company Tree of Knowledge, in-demand keynote speaker and author of books Shine, Diary of a Brilliant Kid, and his current smash hit, Life Will See You Now. Gav, how you doing?
I'm very well, thank you so much. Can I just say, I love the fact that Rachel mentioned my wallpaper. I cannot believe the conversations that this wallpaper has started on Zoom chats. I was actually
that's not real.
Do you know, I was going to clarify that right at the start. I wasn't sure somebody would mention it. I thought I have to say this is wallpaper, so you can all stop thinking about it. You don't need to email me later on, but I would love it to be real. It would be amazing, but it's B&Q's finest. So there you go. No, I'm really good. Thank you, Nick. I'm good. Thank you for having me, guys.
So Gavin, you are going to play us out with something from your new book. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what you've been doing and maybe how this situation has affected you ahead of our chat next month, because it is quite a while away.
Yeah, so just my organisation, you know, we started out about 11 years ago. There was 3 of us, and at that time what we did was we created workshops for young people in schools, all around building confidence, resilience, working on mindset, huge amount of transition workshops for younger kids going into high school and things like that, a lot of presentation skill stuff, and it kind of grew and grew and grew till we got to the point where, whilst that is still a 65-70% of our business, we now work with a huge amount of other businesses doing basically the same thing. You know, a lot of work around mindset and resilience and creating high-performing teams. And I myself spend most of my time now keynoting and hosting big conferences and writing books. So you can imagine that actually this has affected us massively. You know, the live events world isn't a live events world. I mean, yes, there's stuff on Zoom and so on, but it's not what we were used to, of course not. You know, for me personally, you know, I heard Rachel saying earlier on that she may furlough herself. I have no shame in putting my hand up and say, I've done it. It was the right thing to do. And we are in a situation where we are doing all the right things we believe are the right things. You know, there's not really answers out there. This is why this kind of thing is so important. This is why, you know, listening to each other is so important, because when you ask questions to people who are meant to have answers for you, they don't have them. And it's very difficult as an employer of 15 other people, because it means that I don't have the answers for them. So I have to work very, very closely. You know, my purpose, my values must now absolutely sit front and center of everything. And, you know, if there was ever a time to live your vision and prove that you've been meaning everything you've been saying for the last umpteen years in your life, then it's right now. So do you know what? First 2 weeks of this, I'm not going to lie, I spent that 2 weeks shitting myself. And even at the weekend there, I had 2 days of just pure anxiety, because it was it's the unknown, isn't it? It's fear starts to creep in. But then I have brilliant days where I think, you know, this could be amazing. I'm loving it. You know, I'm at home with my wife and kids. My wife's a key worker. She's a deputy head teacher of a high school, so she's not in every day, but her school's a hub. I've got the kids at home. We're homeschooling. I'm an ex-primary school teacher. My kids love that. Not. Yeah, we're doing good. We're doing good, but I'm confident we'll be here in months to come, but we're going to look and feel different, and I'm okay with that.
So your new book, which has just come out, is basically all about, in fact, give us the full title, because the full title basically says it all, right?
Yeah, it's called Life Will See You Now. Quit waiting for the light at the end of the tunnel and light that fucker up for yourself.
Yes.
And if there's any blue sky thinking which was left to be done, then Gavin is going to serenade us a bit from that. So Gavin, please take it away when you're ready, my friend.
So I've been listening intently to what Rachel was saying, and I'm a huge fan of Rachel, and I just agree with every single thing. Although people seem to talk about me in a passionate way, so maybe that, I don't know, maybe they don't refer. I don't get spoken about like other men, so I'm not convinced what's going on there, but I'm okay with that as well. So I'm going to try and sum up everything that's been discussed and asked and been going on in the chat. And I'd like to start off with the first quote that I share in my new book. And it's actually by Macaulay Culkin, of all people. And that is, I've yet to find a level of enthusiasm that tops, holy shit, look at this giant potato chip. Now, I think it's one of the best quotes I've ever heard in my entire life, because you know it doesn't matter what age you are, where you're from, how experienced in life and work you are, if you're sitting with a bag of crisps and you pull a giant piece of potato out of that bag, it blows your mind, and you cannot help but turn around and look for someone to show it to. And if there's no one in the room, you're devastated. So you bring out your phone and you take photos and you send it to your mates and you Snapchat it, and I don't even know what Snapchat is. You tweet it, you Facebook it, and you share it with the world, because it's wonderful. And what I love about this quote is it's this idea that even out in the most ordinary, now don't get me wrong, I love crisps, so I don't treat them as ordinary, and I have a lot of crisps, but a packet of crisps doesn't set the world on fire. And sometimes from something that appears to not be that exciting, you can pull something that blows your mind. And it's that wee moment right there that's kind of the epitome of my new book and the work that I and the team do. And I want to share very quickly a wee story from the book where I saw that level of excitement. In fact, where I saw the most excitement in a human being's face, two human beings actually, in one moment, from an interesting, ordinary situation. It's my children. So my son is now 12 and my daughter is 8. But this is when they were, my daughter was only 3 and my son was 7, and we were on our first ever family holiday abroad. So we'd got to a point in life where the kids were old enough, we were able to afford to go 2 weeks abroad to Menorca, all-inclusive. And I'd never done all-inclusive before. This was new to me, it was exciting. And it was day one, we'd had breakfast, we had found our spot in the sun, And we had a brilliant morning, and I said to the kids, it's time to go and get a nice lolly. And of course, when you're on holiday, let's be honest, ladies and gentlemen, every time is time to have a nice lolly or an ice cream. And my kids said, well, we go get one. I was like, go for it. You just head over there. You see that giant big freezer, and it was one of those wonderful freezers that's like a big treasure chest where you slide the top open. And I said, you just go over there and you help yourself. And the kids are looking at me going, well, you can't just help yourself. Like, you're not allowed to do that. So for the 400th time, I had to explain all-inclusive. It's all bought and paid for. You just go and help yourself. And my wee girl, who was 3, she was like, but you need to give us the pennies. I was like, no, honestly, just go help yourself. And of course, as all good kids do in that situation, they turned to their mother for reassurance. And they looked at my wife, Ali, and said, do we really just go and help ourselves? And my wife was like, go for it. So off they went, but it was just right there, the look on their faces, this wonderful expression, the excitement, that buzz, they just lit up. And it was the way they turned and walked away. It was like something from some kind of, it was ice skating at the Olympics. They just pirouetted. I've never used the word pirouetted in my life, but they pirouetted and off they went. And it was the way they walked. It was like a wee cartoon. It was they wiggled, they danced, they hopped, they skipped, they jumped all the way through their sun loungers, round the swimming pool, and they got to the freezer. And I turned to speak to my kids, to my wife, and I was talking to her, and she said, quick, look at them. And at that point, I turned around, and the top of the freezer was open, and all I could see was their legs sticking out the top. They were right in, properly in the freezer, reaching in. Their legs were sticking out the top, and they came back up with their ice lollies, and they wiggled their way back. And for the next few minutes, not too many minutes, next few minutes, I just sat and watched them eating these ice lollies with ice cream beards and ice lolly beards, because if you don't have an ice cream beard, then are you even eating an ice lolly? And it was in that moment, I was kind of sitting looking at it thinking, this is one of these beautiful moments where you pull something out of an everyday moment and it lights your world up. And I believe that this is, by the way, that story is so important to me that I've actually got I don't know if you can see it, I've got a wee ice lolly tattooed on my arm just to remind me of that. But the reason I'm telling this story is I think this is where we're at in the world right now. We need to, every one of us, whether you're in business or not, we need to reach into this moment. We need to, whether it's a bag of crisps or a freezer, we need to reach in, like, and I mean right in, like feet off the ground, like your head needs to go in, and you pull something out of it that not just puts a smile on your face, but sets your fucking soul on fire. Something that absolutely lifts you in that moment that you can then go and share with the world. So there is a version of that in the book. So my advice is we need to lean in, reach in, and pull something from the ordinary that you want to share with the world that lights you up. Thank you.
Thank you, Gavin.
There we go. And yeah, I think we're deep enough into the situation now that we can kind of see some of the positives that are coming out, and we're going to keep extracting those good stories, that good energy and those good vibes as best as we can as a community. So thank you, Rachel. Thank you, Gavin. Jude, do you want to wrap us up tonight?
Yeah, I think Gavin summed it up there. Let's just reach in and grab it. I don't know about you guys, but I am like incredibly motivated to just go and do shit. Like, I'm not going to sleep tonight. That's a lie. I sleep all the time. I'm definitely going to sleep tonight, but tomorrow we're going to get there. I just want to say thank you so much to everyone that has joined us. We got through a mammoth amount of stuff, but hopefully you're all feeling a bit better. Rachel, just quickly, if anyone had a question and didn't get to ask it, how can they get in touch with you?
You can do one of two things. You can either get me on the Twitterati, or you could just email me through, it's easier to get me through Creative Entrepreneurs Club. So creativeentrepreneursclub.co.uk, and jump on, and I'm around. You can chat with me live there as well, and just drop me a note. I'm in a group. You can drop me a note, or if you want to be completely anonymous, just email me, Rachel at wearecec.co.uk, but Rachel spelled with an A. Please spell Rachel with an A. That's all I ask.
Spell Rachel correct.
All I ask. Nothing more, nothing less.
Thank you so much for joining us. And on that note, I think we'll just leave it. Everyone, stay safe, and we hope to see you at a Startup Grind event very, very soon. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you.
Bye.